so we can get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2017 third quarter webinar for the Next Gen 911 GIS user group. It's kind of weird that I'm just talking, sitting around my computer with you all muted, so if anything does come up, feel free to send me a chat, but I'm going to kind of assume no news is good news and that everyone is able to hear me and see my screen. Thanks for everyone for joining us a little early. We're using a new utility that's offered through KU, since we're on the KU campus, and we shouldn't have a limit on the number of participants like we have in previous webinars, so we're hoping this is our new utility moving forward. And be sure to give me some feedback if you have any issues with the installation or the plugin or anything. I'm assuming if you're on here you didn't, but hopefully this was pretty easy for everyone to join, and we'll use this from this point forward if that's the case. Okay, well with that, let's get started. Oops. Okay, never mind. I think we'll get started. Okay, wow, the escapes. Okay, did it just stop sharing my screen? Let's try that again. Okay, sorry everyone. I'm playing with the screen here, so someone's chatting with me, I'm sure, saying still see the screen. Okay, thank you, Sherry. Okay, so Sherry, can you see my entire desktop though? I don't think you should be able to. Okay, I'm just gonna share, let's do that, the entire desktop because it's getting a little cluttered here. Okay. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, sorry, I'm learning about this as we go too. So for flexibility, I'm just gonna not use show mode. We're just gonna go this route. Okay. Okay, so let's get started here. Okay, so again, like I said, this is our quarterly user group meeting. The purpose is to continue to update all of our GIS maintainers and stewards about the project in general and different things going on. There's so many moving parts with this project that I felt like a quarterly user group was a great way to communicate with everyone. And so this is our third one, and our next one will be by meeting at the Kansas Association of Mappers Conference. So there's more on that later in the presentation. Our agenda today is we're going to talk about just general project updates. Then Sherry Massey is going to give us an update on GIS committee activities and the status of the MSAG GIS alignment that you've all been working on. And Kristen Jordan-Koenig is going to talk about the Next Gen 911 GIS Toolbox, which there was a release pretty recently, and the updates to that, and then just general announcements in the next webinar. Okay, so just some general updates. We, of course, closed out the Q2 2017 data submissions, and again, thank you very much for your participation. We again had 100% participation. There's always a few for various reasons that go a little bit past that deadline, and as long as we're in communication with you about why that might be or what type of delay we're looking at, that's perfectly acceptable. So we appreciate everyone getting their data in by the deadline, but if there is something kind of out of your control where you're going to miss that deadline, just let us know so we know that data is on its way and when to kind of expect it. On the last meeting, I mentioned we are going to have a summit with the state of Oklahoma. Schedules have proven to be very difficult to coordinate with everyone, so that summit is still pending. We're hoping now, I think, to schedule something with them in November, so I'll keep everyone updated on that. We did something similar with Nebraska, and our next day we're looking at Oklahoma, and then we'll move on and eventually have a summit with Missouri and Colorado just to coordinate Next Gen 911 activities across state boundaries. Another item, these are all just random project update items I'm going through here. Another item I want to make sure and bring up is for all of you that are currently on the hosted solution, Vesta Locate is the mapping portion of that solution. I wanted to make sure you knew that at any time you're ready, you can submit those optional data layers that are in the current GIS data model. The optional data layers in the model 2.0 are fire hydrants, parcels, and gates. We've had several PSAPs go ahead and submit their parcels and ask me to add those to their map display for their call handlers. So if you're interested in having those added, we're ready to start adding that information. So go ahead and submit the data. And if you want it, if you know, maybe I missed it or you want to add it immediately, just drop me an email and I'd be happy to republish the template for your PSAP and get the parcels out there. I have not added any fire hydrants yet or gates, so I might need some feedback on the symbology of some of that to see what would look best for the call handlers and how that's displayed. So feel free to go ahead and submit that, email me that you did, and then we can get that included in the call handling mapping solution. Also, there will be more optional data layers included in the next GIS data model version 2.1. So same thing goes. Usually there's a little delay in people starting to integrate that into their submission and then us actually pushing it out to the call handling mapping software. But you know, we want to start giving you whatever data is the most valuable for you to view for your call handlers. So just keep in mind, just communicate with me and we can get that data out there for you. So. Okay, speaking of the hosted solution, here's the latest deployment map. As you can see, everything in green are the counties that are currently cut over and live on the hosted solution. All the counties in blue are signed up. They've signed an agreement to join the hosted solution. The orange counties have a different solution, so at this time they will not be, this time or in the near future, they won't be joining the hosted solution. And I believe the purple and orange are either undecided or might be with another solution. So I'll just say purple and orange, or I'm sorry, purple and yellow are kind of in the undecided category. So that's all right, because you can see every time we show this map, it certainly grows tremendously. So we're, by the end of the year, I think we have another, I think it's maybe 7 or 8 cutovers before the end of 2017. And then a few more then once we flip over to 2018. So we'll be, this map will be largely green at CAM, or if not, then at the first quarter 2018. Right, so that's the status of that. All right, the next thing I wanted to show off is the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council has a new website. So I wanted to bring that up for everyone to see that. So this is the new website. As you can see, it's a total redesign. They actually went with one of their project partners that helped redesign the website, and there was so much information that needed to be updated, as well as just the appearance of the information, that this was a great project and a great update for the website. If you go to the menu bars up above, you'll see there's pretty much anything you want to know about the 911 Coordinating Council or the Next Gen 911 project. So if you're looking for board members or council minute meetings, any of the governance documents, finances, things like PSAP payments and their expenditures, so that's more on the PSAP 911 funding side of things, services for things like technical and operations. And then, of course, I have to highlight the GIS page, so let's click on that. So you'll find most of the content here is really a replication of the data we have on the DASK website under the Initiatives Next Gen 911 webpage. It might be a little more pretty in graphics, but it's really the same content. So if you're ever looking for information, this is a great source to go to. Go to the DASK website or go here to find that information. So we've got it broken up into different sections. The first one.
I can't see the website.
Oh, can't see the website. Okay, sorry everyone. Let's see here. New share. Let's just go to Chrome. Okay, thank you. Did you get a text from somebody?
Well, no, it was in your chat screen.
Oh, Where did I not see that? Oh, down here. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Thanks, Sherry.
I'll keep watching the chat so you can talk.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Let me go back to the homepage. Sorry about that, everyone. Learning on the fly here. So let's try that again. Here is the new Kansas 911 Coordinating Council webpage. Lots of good content here. Some scrolling current events or hot topics at the top here. Really, the main thing I wanted to highlight here is the GIS webpage. So I'm going to click over to that one. Okay. So at the top of it, like I said, a lot of this information can also be found on the desk website. The first bit on the GIS webpage is about the Next Gen 911 GIS committee. And we put together kind of this nifty timeline. If you're interested in that, showing, it's kind of specific to GIS, kind of put our head around what all we've done through the years since the Kansas 911 Act was signed in 2011. So you can see how far we've gone and where we still have to go for this project. So it's kind of a handy reference. There's the standards, tools, and policies section, which is where you find your data model, a link to the toolbox, the data model template, any relevant documentation standards. A section about the GIS enhancement project. This is just kind of more of an archive or historical content to maybe someone is coming to Kansas and doesn't know anything about the Next Gen 911 project, another state or something. This kind of shows, talks about the history of the pilot study and the enhancement project, just so they know the phases that we've gone through to get to where we're at. And if you're ever looking for some older content or presentation, there's this GIS enhancement archive button here. That's where you'll find all those old presentations or maybe some reference documents and things like that. So really kind of an archive of all of the hard work that was put into the enhancement project. And just a couple other sections, the maps and imagery. We now have viewers where you can actually see the hosted solution status map I just showed, as well as the imagery dates, which I think this is kind of nice. Of course, it's more relevant when the imagery is first delivered, but if you're ever curious about the 911 imagery and what specifics about the flight dates, this is a nice service where you can go in and identify and find that information. And then just a couple more sections here. Latest is the EZNet and IMSAG GIS data alignment section, and I'm sure this will continue to grow. As Sherry's great slides about the IMSAG and its transition. And then, of course, GIS training, the training videos, and then the final thing down here is the GIS user group. And that's where we'll, once we're done today, we'll put a copy of the presentation and the recording of this webinar for reference. So trying to make as much content available to you quickly and easily so that you can, find what you're looking for. And then, of course, if you don't see something here you're looking for or have a question, always contact the GIS committee with those questions. One final thing I want to say real quick about the website is this website also has the PSAP contact list, which will show all the contacts. This is pulled directly from the Next Gen 911 portal. So any contacts that are registered on the portal that are a PSAP operations manager or a PSAP administrator appear in this list. So the GIS stewards and maintainers are not part of this list. It's supposed to be the primary contact for the PSAP. We found that we've done a great job getting our GIS people registered, but we are missing several of those administrators and operations managers. So just kind of a FYI, if you know of someone, if your PSAP manager is not registered on the portal or your administrator, whoever's appropriate, if you would have them or ask them to go and register on the portal, that'll automatically populate this contact list. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to everyone's attention so that this is updated as contact information is updated on the portal, so it's kind of a live feed. So if we could just make sure we have the right people registered, that would be great. So thanks for passing that word on. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to talk about with the website. Okay, I'm going to switch back over. Here we go to PowerPoint. Okay, and it looks like it's green, so hopefully you can see my PowerPoint slide. Okay, thank you, Sherry. It worked. Okay. Thank you, Sherry, for the live updates. We got a live feed here. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the imagery update. We are in the final phases of finalizing the imagery contract extension. as usual, these things take a little longer than we anticipate, but it's actually very close to being done. So the idea with that is, and part of that contract is that there will be local buy-up options available. And so as soon as we get things finalized, that information will be released, and we'll be able to get that out to you as soon as possible. So I know we're kind of on a tight time frame here, but I'm hoping to get that released here pretty quickly. This new imagery will include the color infrared band, so it'll be a 4-band GeoTIFF files that will be created. We'll have natural color and CIR web services, and then also they'll be generating some natural color Mr. SID files for us. So similar to the previous set of imagery, just this time we'll now have CIR, which is a nice addition to be able to view that as well. We anticipate the acquisition will be over 2 flying seasons just because there's a lot of area to cover for Kansas. They're going to start in western Kansas, and that'll begin this winter as soon as, there's there's no snow and decent visibility. So probably after the first of the year, and that initial data collection will likely be delivered then in August and September of 2018. So I have a feeling we'll probably get access to the service before we actually get the actual data files. So as soon as that becomes available in our feed of the service, then we'll certainly get the word out on that as well. One other nice thing about this is that the previous set of imagery, due to the contract extension specifics, that imagery will be made publicly available after the contract is final. So that'll be a nice addition. The new imagery, of course, will still fall under those same licensing agreement, which is it's to be distributed to local, state, government, or anyone doing work on behalf of one of those entities. It's just not public domain data, but we seem to have had no problem getting everyone access who really needs access to the imagery. So the new imagery will have those same licensing restrictions, but as a result, the old imagery will be made publicly available. So we will make that available to download on our website once the contract is finalized. Okay, with that, now I'm going to click over. We're going to switch over to Sherry, and I need to find you in my list here real quick, Sherry, and unmute you. My list changed. Okay, here you are. Oops.
Can I talk now? There we go.
Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I have just a few things to go over with you today. First thing I'm going to talk about is the MSAG and GEO-MSAG transition, and that has to do mostly with the alignment reports you guys are receiving about how your telephone number records are aligned with your GIS data. The July reports went out, and I will be sending out another set of reports probably in early to mid-October. The alignments steadily are getting better across the state, and we have a lot of people that are in really good shape. So I have to tell you guys that you should all be patting yourselves on the back for this. When we talk about it with the vendors who are involved and the people at the national level, they're skeptical about how well aligned our data is and how much participation we're getting. So we're very proud of it, and we're very proud of the work you guys are doing. And so as a gift, we're going to move the bar on you and change how you have to actually respond to us. So what we have been doing up to this point is our best idea of how things were going to work. I talked about this a little at the last user group, that we are doing testing with the company West Safety Services, which is the company we're going to have to hand data off to so that they can inject it basically into the next-gen system. And we are just beginning to align our testing. And what that means is that the validation tests that we've been doing, both on the GIS data in general and with the alignment with the telephone number data, the tests we have been doing are very close to what they do, but there may be small tweaks that have to happen, and those tweaks may make some errors show up that we did not consider errors before. And it may take some things that we considered errors before and say that they're okay now. So we'll be communicating with you as well as we can as this process goes on. The data has been submitted to them for the first run of this, the first pilot run of this, but you can expect that with new updates of the toolbox, it's possible that the scripts are going to be changing slightly and the errors that you see might be a little bit different. So don't panic, it's not a problem with you or your data, it is a changing standard that we have to adjust kind of to match what they're doing. That said, we also have a little better idea of the time frame of conversions. The very first county that is actually converted into a GeoMSAG will probably happen in January of 18. So what we'll be doing in the interim is getting data ready, testing data, and making sure all of these moving parts are lined up so that we have a very smooth process. What we don't want to do is have you submit data through the portal and have it come back and say, hey, it passes. And then 2 days later, we're coming back to you and say, oh, bummer, Wes said it didn't pass. We want to make sure that everything that happens at the portal matches what happens at West, just like we try to make sure that what you test in your toolbox is exactly the same as what's going to be tested on the portal. We want to make sure that that is a very smooth flow, and that's what the next few months are going to be about. So please continue the work that you're doing. For you guys that are done, there are quite a few of you on this call I noticed that are pretty much finished with the alignment or so close that we'll call it finished. Just keep an eye on your data and keep an eye on the alignment reports. And thank you guys very much again for the work with that. It has been amazing to see such messed up data sets come together so quickly with the effort you guys are putting in. So thank you very much. You could move on. So we have a little bit of upcoming training. There is another data steward and maintainer class that will be held in Manhattan on September 27th. The registration information is out on the website, I believe. And there will also be a data steward class pre-conference at the Fall APCO conference and a data maintainer class pre-conference at the Kansas Association of Mappers conference. And for those of you who have been to a class this year, you're aware of this, and for those of you that haven't, the class is now divided kind of into 3 pieces. There's the data steward, the data maintainer, and in the middle, I do a piece on this MSAG alignment and how it's performed because that information is relevant to both. So when I do the data steward class at APCO, I will also talk about MSAG there. And when I do the data maintainer class, I will talk about MSAG there as well. So anyone is welcome, of course, to come. Most of the people on the call are already certified as data maintainers, but there may be some information to pick up. And if you know of anybody that you think would benefit from attending, please let them know that it is out there and it is free and we'd love to see them. And then my final update is about the GIS data model itself. So the data model version 2.1 is currently being reviewed by vendors who are identified as data maintainers for counties or 911 centers. We chose kind of a 3-tier process. It's the same basic process we used the last time where the GIS committee went over the changes. The vendors who are identified as data maintainers deal with a whole lot of data across the state. They handle roughly half to a little more than half of the state. So having them look at it kind of gives us a better idea of what kind of trouble we're causing for everyone and what kind of feedback we would get from a sort of a broad variety of counties and data sets and that kind of thing. Their responses are due back either tomorrow or the day after. I don't remember precisely, but once we get those responses back and discuss any major concerns or changes that come out of those responses, then it will go out for public review, which will mean that it will go out in a blast email to everyone that is certified as a data maintainer or everyone that is registered as a data maintainer for a PSAP on the portal. It will also go out to everyone who is on there as a data steward, even though many of them will go a GIS data standard. I don't know what to do with that. but feel free to hand it out wherever you want. It will be available as draft for download on the website as well. We do want feedback from anybody who is interested, not just the people who are certified or registered, but that is our method of communicating it out to make sure that our direct users have a copy in their hand and an opportunity to say something if they have concerns about the changes. So just real briefly, the proposed changes are a couple of new fields to support GeoMSAG creation. They are an authoritative left and right field that will allow you to flag when one side of the road is out of your county or out of your city or out of your area of concern. And then also a GeoMSAG left and right flag for the road center lines, which just gives you the opportunity to say, yes, I want an effective MSAG record for this, or no, I don't. Similar fields are getting added to the address point layer or proposed to be added to the address point layer. And I have been working out a methodology of providing you guys with an initial population of those fields. You'll still have to go through and put some polish on it, but it shouldn't be a circumstance where you would have to fill out every single record. We should be able to fill most of them for you, and then you can just go back and touch up your problem areas. At least that's the hope. We are also removing road geometry recommendations that are not directly related to attributes. And by that I mean that we are pulling out the geometry recommendations for things like how to do a divided highway intersection, how to draw ramps, things like that. Now we're keeping in there how to address a few things or what to do with address ranging on them. But when it comes to road geometry recommendations, that really is way beyond the scope of our document. We put some basic stuff in there to begin with and realized fairly quickly that we were not covering even, a tenth of the unique circumstances that were out there. And that in some cases our advice was confusing compared to what people were seeing on the ground or having to deal with in their data. So instead, at the behest of KDOT, who has some very serious standards they have to meet, the GIS committee is going to get together and come up with a completely separate document that is not a data standard or a mandate, but just a kind of recommended document, a best practices style document. And the GIS data model will point to that as the recommendation for where you go if you need some help figuring out how to draw something. So we're taking out everything that might conflict with that or might be covered in that document. Finally, we do have 2 additional optional layers that are being proposed. One of them is utility service areas, and the other one is bridges. And these are for Vesta Locate. So the people that really need to be concerned about whether or not they're going to put them on there are those who are on the hosted solution, who have the data and who believe it would be helpful to your 911 center, or who have talked about to their 911 center and they have identified that, yes, we want that data. So if that is all the case, then these will be sitting there for you to populate. We have, just as we did with parcels and gates and hydrants, we have come up with some basic fields, but we have limited it. We don't want to tell you how to do your utility data or how to do your bridge data. We just want to get some common fields that we can use to symbolize and provide information to dispatchers. Once the public review is complete and any changes that come from that have been incorporated, we will put together updated templates and a conversion script that will add what needs to get added and hopefully, like I said, for the most part, populate it, give you some instructions for that. And the document will be ready before those things are ready. But as with the last time, you will have 3 quarters to get updated. So don't worry about it too much. The document will probably get released very close to our next deadline. You do not have to get everything changed up for the next deadline. The run in January is fine, and if you need to take that long to run in April, will work too.
Sherry loves it when I add pictures to the presentation. I threw that one in of you training because that's my support role. I take pictures of Sherry doing great training, so I had to throw that in. I put this in because I wanted to show you the group of people that actually sit in a room for a full day and hammer out those details on the GIS data model, kind of just to give them some recognition. So starting from the left is Sarah Lynn Hayes from Mark, of course, our co-chair Sherry, who's really the lead on the data model, kind of getting all the information in a managed content that we can review and release. So of course Sherry does a fantastic job with that. Or Alexander, who is the NG 911 liaison, Mark Whelan and Keith Shaw, both from Johnson County, of course myself, Ken Nelson, who is the other chair of the committee, Mike Diatillo, who's with the Kansas Department of Emergency Management, Jack Joseph, who's with Sedgwick County GIS, and Kyle Godowitz, who's with KDOT. And we're missing two from this picture. We're missing Sherry Taylor from Riley County and Eamon Coveney from Ellis County. So just wanted to, and they're usually joining us on the phone when we're talking about this content. So we sit in a conference room here at the Kansas Geological Survey with a document projected on the screen and actually hammer through this GIS data model. So hopefully it's, well thought out and content for review, and we appreciate everyone's time and participating in that effort. So, and I thought it was such a nice picture, I just had to show it off. So there you go. All right, Sherry, anything else?
No, that is it.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Okay, I'm going to mute you again. Okay, now we're going to move on to Kristen. Give some toolbox updates.
Okay. Well, a few of you might have noticed that things were a little different with the last toolbox update that came out, and with the update to the update that came out there shortly thereafter. There were a few major changes, including how certain tools run and also their names. The geocode address points turned into geocompare address points, and also changed the names of the TN list checks so that they're a little bit more clear on what exactly they do. So hopefully there's a little bit less confusion about which tools you have to run based on your TN list provider. But the methodology between both of those changed so that instead of using Esri's geocoding tools, they are now directly comparing an address list to the road centerline file itself. And eventually the check TN list tools are going to pass the TN list against the road centerline file and then also against the address point file, since that's how geocoding is going to work on the actual phone. I don't know all the terms for all these things.
We're moving to the GeoMSAC.
Right, right. So that is purely replicated, and y'all can see how that works directly from the toolbox. Next. Also edited the overlapping address tool, and now it works really well. I'm pretty proud of that one, but let me know if you have any problems. I rewrote it. The tools are also totally ArcPro compatible, so you can run everything out of ArcPro or ArcGIS Desktop, whichever you like. And then also fixed a few additional user-reported bugs. That's what the quick follow-up was last time. So then moving forward, fixing a few additional user bugs that have been reported. None of those are emergencies, so I'm not going to push anything out until I include some major changes. But if you're getting weird messages about ESNs and cities and address points, you can just sort of ignore them for now. As I said before, the check TN list tools are going to also run against the address point file. And then there's another bullet point that Sherry asked me to include after I wrote the slides yesterday. We're going to be adding a check, a validation check against the road centerline file that's going to compare the parity with what actual numbers y'all have in the road centerline file. So that if, for example, the parity is recorded as E for even, but then there's two odd numbers in the actual address range for that side of the street, it's going to start flagging those. It's going to mark them as a notice. So, you know, there might be quite a few messages showing up for you guys, but it's just things to take a look at, especially before transitioning to the GeoMSAG. And looking further ahead in the future, yes, we're going to be putting out a new toolbox to correspond with the next geodatabase model. Tools to assist with conversion, so that's not quite so much of a pain in the neck. That'll auto-populate a lot of the new attributes. And looking, you know, end of 2017, early 2018, we've had a suggestion for an Orion comparison tool where users can compare their address points to the corresponding Orion situs address. And we did some initial testing on this concept, and the results weren't too bad. I tested 19 counties, and about 12% of the addresses didn't match very well, which means that 88% of the addresses did match really well, which is quite incredible. So the intent of this is to just help double check data between NG911 and appraisal records, just for another step in reviewing data, so that you know, it just helps ensure that both the NG911 and the Orion data are in agreement and that both are correct. So that's the intent of that. It's not required. It's just going to be present, so everybody can start looking at their data cohesively in comparison. So I think that's mostly the toolbox updates, but as always, if you have questions or comments, feel free to contact me. Except for the parity check, you can send Sherry nasty emails about that. That's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We had a couple questions come up on the chat. I want to make sure, I don't know if everyone could see those. First one was, what's the resolution of the new imagery? And yeah, I failed to put that on my slide. There'll be 1 foot leaf off resolution, just like the last round, so thanks for that question. And then also, we had a question about who the vendor is for the imagery, and that will be Surdex again. They're the group that flew the initial set of imagery, and this is essentially a contract extension with them, so they will again be our partners for the new imagery. So thank you for those questions. I appreciate that. Okay, well with that, at this point we're kind of just got a few more things to wrap up. Just a reminder that the next GIS data submission deadline is September 30th. You can, of course, submit it anytime. We have some jurisdictions that submit once a week or as often as needed. And if you're on the hosted solution, as soon as we receive those submissions, within usually about 3 days, I'll get those moved over and pushed out to a call handling mapping solution to best to locate. So submit as often as you need to, but please do at least once by September 30th. And then the next Gen911 GIS user group, it's not going to be a webinar, actually. It's going to be a session at the CAM conference. So that's kind of where we kicked off. This will be our full year cycle of meeting as a user group. It's a nice way to kind of be face-to-face and ask some more questions. So I'll work with the CAM conference committee to get that set up, and it'll be in the CAM announcements when the conference information becomes available. So really the final thing is just to remind you about the new website for the Coordinating Council, and then of course always go to the DASC website for more information. Let's see, I had one more question from a very unique user in our list. It's the Pirate Brownbeard from Shawnee County. Hi, Lee. So he asked, when will information for buy-up options be available? I don't know exactly. Actually, Ken's here, who's the chair of the GIS committee, so I'll ask him if he has any more information on that.
Hello, Pirate. I don't know exactly. Just talked with Tim Donzie at Surdex yesterday about that. He said he was working on their cost model for that, so they would have different numbers based on the area of the project, getting some economy of scale based on hitting some thresholds for larger sizes. So I told him, we'd like to see that sooner than later. So hopefully once we get this contract fully executed, because Eileen mentioned we're announcing it now, we're working through the renewal process with procurement or the extension process rather with procurement now. We're just sort of in final contract review, so we felt confident enough to go ahead and announce that on the call today. So I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks that we'll have that information from Certex, and then if it's all kind of short and sweet, we'll probably just send it out through an email. If we think it needs maybe a little explanation, then we'll just set up another webinar and let Tim and company walk everyone through that. But we're hoping it's not rocket science. It's just some basic description of the services that they'll provide, whatever bios anyone's interested in. And of course, it's optional. You know, the 1 foot statewide color infrared products will be available to anyone at no cost. And then if the buy-up looks like a good deal to you, you can negotiate. The idea is that you negotiate your own. The prices will be available, but you have your own contract directly with Certex, and that would not go through the council. But as soon as we have that, we'll get it out either through email or we'll do another short webinar.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know, because that would be great if we, of course, can meet more than quarterly if we have important topics like the imagery. So, yeah, if we get that finalized and they're willing to have a webinar, we'll get that information out and do something similar to this, so everyone has a chance to get that information. All right. Well, I appreciate the questions through the chat. That was very helpful, and thank you to Kristen and Ken for helping me watch that feed come through, so I didn't miss any questions. So there's the websites where really most of the content or links for the information we've talked about is out there. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have any other questions. And I believe that concludes our webinar for today. So thank you everyone for attending and being flexible and trying yet another webinar utility. And give me your feedback. I feel like this went pretty well. So if you have some strong opinions in favor or opposed to this Zoom utility, let me know. But if you're mostly in favor, we'll probably use this for the first quarter in 2018. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a great day.